working that waiting list and try to get everybody in that wanted to be here. I'm Jill Garcia, and I'm the Crime Prevention Specialist for APD at the Foothills Area Command. This is Lieutenant Rob Milton, and he is our swing shift watch commander. So it's an honor to have a lieutenant. Did you want to say any words before we get rolling?
I've met a few people in here already, and I know a few people, and I used to work with Yvonne back here. But Jill puts on a really good presentation, and it's really going to be fast-paced. She's going to try to cram it all in 1 hour, so it won't take too long. And really, she can talk for 8 hours on this. But listen to what she says. I think you've narrowed it down to the very specifics, and we, the uniformed police officers, back Jill 100% because the tips that she gives you helps prevent those calls coming in and your property being taken. You know, and it can happen to anybody. A friend of mine that I work out with at the gym, I tell my family and friends everything Jill, about crime prevention, and Jill's going to tell you the same thing, but I tell them, don't leave stuff in your car. It's just an opportunity for everybody to take it. So he was at the gym, he left his cell phone in the car visible, and his window got smashed and somebody stole his cell phone. It just happened, like, just happened. And you know, I don't feel like telling him I told you so, but I told him so. So, and it works. Her crime prevention tips do work. So.
Good. Well, thank you. And we also have a special guest tonight helping me out, and this is my counterpart, crime prevention specialist from the Northeast Area Command, and this is Sharon Press. And we share a border of Eubank. So if you've heard me at workshops before, I've explained where the Foothills Area Command begins and ends. This is a map of our area command. So basically we're from Eubank to the open space in the mountains, from the county line down to Kirtland, and then Sharon's district is from this side of Eubank on down. So it's a pleasure to have you here. My promise at these workshop Wednesdays at the Foothills is to get you in and out in an hour. We're going to hit the highlights. I do have time built in at the end for questions and answers. So don't worry if you have a question. We can address it towards the end of the program. But if you're worried that you're going to forget it, by all means, just raise your hand and we'll address it. Housekeeping, we have restrooms across the lobby, water fountains. I've got bottled water and donated chips. I don't know who the mystery donor was, but they came and brought a grocery bag of chips for us. I know it's after work, so if you're hungry, thirsty, help yourself. At your places at the table, you've got a no soliciting sign. These work. These are for you to take home and post by your front door. Okay? Now this sends a visual message, and crime prevention is all about the visual message. It sends a visual message that I do not want to be disturbed. Even if it's not a solicitor, it's still sending that message, don't bug me. And also it says here, I will call 242 cops if I'm disturbed. We'll go into a little bit about door-to-door later in the program. The top sheet in your packet is the notes page. That's for you to take notes, scribble notes. Everybody has a pen. I've got to ask you to please leave the pens on the table when you leave so I can reuse them for the next workshop. You've got a flyer on Workshop Wednesday at the Foothills. And this is something that I'm doing once a month on a Wednesday, right here. They're always going to be 5:30 to 6:30. Different topics. Next month is crime prevention for women, and November would be holiday crime prevention. And then we're going to take a break in December, and then we're going to get to it again next year with lots of good topics. So that will explain a little bit about that. Another page in your packet is on the Foothills website. This is where you're going to get all of my crime prevention information. If you sign on as a subscriber, and a number of you have come in tonight already and said, I read your blog every day. It's kind of like a blog. Sharon has one as well at her station, and the Northwest substation. But we'll put crime prevention tips on there with the daily watch notes, and that's the report of property crime that happened the past 24 hours. I've got a to-do list in there because that's just the way I am. I work off of lists, just like Maureen. And I feel good when I check that item off my
I don't
list
check
too.
mine off like you do. Doesn't
So
happen.
I've got the to-do list, and this is just kind of distilling things that we're talking about tonight in the class. I've got a brochure on Neighborhood Watch, how to start one. I believe in Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch works, but Neighborhood Watch is citizen-driven. I can't start one for you. That's up to you guys. So this tells you how to do it. It's free, it's easy. We just want you to have a couple of social events a year, have a block captain that serves as the point of contact, how to report a crime and be a good witness. This is going to tell you how to describe a person or a vehicle if you ever need to call the police. It explains the difference between 242 cops and 911. And it tells you how to file a police report if you are victimized, how you can file that report online or over the phone. Then I've got a packet of different tips for you for the home as we move outside the home to the inside. So we've got lighting, fencing, landscaping, front door, doggy doors, and windows. Okay? And then the last page, the feedback page, I would ask that when you leave tonight, please fill this out before you leave so I know how I did, so that I know if I'm covering everything that you guys want to know. Potential topics for next year. And if you leave that and the pin on the table, we'll pick them up when the workshop's over. Yeah, because we got to have those pins for the next one. I'm a little nutty about the pins. But the Workshop Wednesday series, this has been a really big success. It took off like wildfire because I know you guys want this information. And every single one that I've done has been packed with a waiting list. So this tells me that we're on the right track with crime prevention here at the Foothills. We're going to offer more. My goal also, I want to do a Spanish language one next year. I think that would be so great. You know, and get an interpreter and reach out. But these workshops, they're designed to get you in and out in an hour. We'll hit the highlights. If anybody has to leave, I understand. My feelings won't be hurt. You're busy people. I'm just thrilled that you're here. So to get started, I want to talk a little bit about the triangle of crime. Do you guys know about the triangle of crime? Just think of Diane's tripod here, or like a three-legged stool or a triangle. So the triangle of crime, if you think of it, you've got the motivation of the criminal, you have the target, which is you or your property, and then you have the opportunity. So if you have a motivated criminal, you have a weak target, and that would be like an unlocked vehicle with a briefcase in the back seat, and you have that opportunity comes up because a lot of the crimes are just the opportunity came up, the target was there, that criminal was motivated, so now you have a crime. And if you think about it, what goes through a criminal's mind before they victimize you or your property, what's the level of risk? Is it low risk, high risk? Am I going to get hurt? Can I get in and out of here fast? If I commit this crime and somebody sees me, are they going to do anything? And that's where you guys come in. You're the extra eyes on the block for these guys. That's why we need you. That's why we need neighborhood watches, and that's why neighborhood watches work. It's having all of you as extra eyes on the block, because Lieutenant Middleton can't have every one of his officers up and down the street 3 times a day. The volume of calls are high, and the other thing about that, your block, you live there. You're there day in, day out. You know what normal behavior is for that block. His officer may not know, oh, that guy doesn't belong here, or gee, I don't recognize him in that truck, or whatever. So that's where you come in, being extra eyes. And for a criminal, if they're going to commit a crime and think, is anyone, if they see me, what are they going to do? Are they even going to call the police? That's where a lot of crime prevention comes in, because it's maintaining what you've got, controlling your environment by locking up, securing things, Going out, I'm a big one on this. Going out at night, go across the street and look back at your house. What do you see? Does it look like a weak target? Do you have burned out light bulbs? Are your light covers so dirty with dead bugs and dirt and dust that the lighting's not effective? Or maybe do you need to tweak it a little bit and adjust it? Do you have a fence that locks properly? How about your front door? Do you have a good solid front door? So those are the kind of things that we need to get in the mindset of thinking about. Some of the things too about controlling your environment and taking care of your property. I've had incidents where I've read reports of auto burglaries and somebody had a broken window, didn't fix it for 2 weeks, reached in, got in, they're re-victimized. So if you have something broken, be prompt in repairing it and fixing it, because that's a weak target. It's an easy target. So I'm going to start with the home from the outside and kind of work my way in with tips and highlights for you. And then the details are in your packets. With the lighting, remember offenders don't want to be seen. If you have good effective lighting, that's going to really help you reduce your odds of being a victim. Look at your home across the street at night, look back at it, and if you have a partner or family member that can help you out, one thing I recommend is have them stay inside the house while you're out and have them adjust the blinds up, down, lower, whatever your situation is, just to see what they see on the inside. I think it would be helpful for you to see that from another viewpoint. We're just so into our world and our busyness and our to-do lists, like me and Maureen. But, you know, if you go out and have a different perspective and take a look and try to put yourself in a criminal's shoes and think, okay, you know, do I see the computer right next to the window? Do I see that big screen TV glowing in the dark? What kind of property do they have that I could break in? Or, you know, you've got to be careful too, just for protecting your property and making sure that those things are doing the job they're intended to do. The different types of lighting out there, we've got motion sensors, you can have lights on a timer. Strategic placement is important, where you're putting your lighting. The benefits, it deters criminal activity, and also you can reduce trips and falls. If you have to go out or have visitors, you're going to reduce the likelihood of somebody getting injured on your property if you have good lighting. Your stucco and your paint colors can leverage your lighting. If you have lighter walls, the light will bounce off of those walls, and it kind of gives you more bang for the buck. If you have dark paint, dark walls, that's going to absorb light. So that's one thing you may consider if you're thinking about restuccoing or painting or adding light. Crime prevention is all a balance for what fits into your life. So if you want to go with a darker tone of home, just keep in mind it would absorb more light. So maybe you'd want to up your amps, so to speak. If you're in a homeowner association, you're subject to rules and covenants. And some cities have dark sky ordinances about lighting, where the lighting can't go up because people want a dark setting to be able to see the sky at night. So you can still work with that within those rules and covenants if that affects you. Just see your board and ask them, you know, for a copy of that and go over it before you invest in lighting. But you can have lighting that goes down to the sidewalk or to the pathway. We're going to move to fencing. Fencing, the goals of having a fence, a barrier, right? You can have fences for noise reduction, and you can have fences for privacy. But the fence is defining territory, and that's a key cornerstone in crime prevention, is defining your territory. And what I mean by that is from public space to semi-public space to your private space. And fencing is one of those things, along with landscaping and pathways, that establishes and defines territory. So your fencing is going to be important. If you have a low fence, great. You can see it opens up your sight lines, but you know, remember I said about a balance, somebody can climb or vault their way over that. One thing to keep in mind as homeowners, if you have fencing that is designed as a barrier, right? So you don't want somebody going around the side fence into your backyard. Don't put anything nearby that could be used as a step up, like a trash bin, patio furniture, things like that, cinder blocks on the side. Those can be used to climb up and over the fence. So part of your fencing goal, not only for a barrier, privacy, or noise reduction, but you want to make sure that you're not actually enhancing somebody's way to get over that fence. Height gives you more privacy, but again, talking about the balance, you have more privacy with a high fence or wall, but you limit your sight lines too. So sight lines are the view from the neighbor's house to your house, or from your house across to the neighbor's. And for the backyards, we tend to have the higher fences and walls because that's our private zone, that's our private space where we unwind. So keep in mind though, for the price of privacy, you probably won't have the neighbors able to see if somebody was back there trying to break in. It's a balance, what fits your situation. The types of fencing, we've got wood. So wood, it can be very attractive, but keep in mind about the maintenance. You're going to have to maintain it. It degrades over time. The slats can fall out or be kicked out to gain entry, to bypass the fence if it's wood, and it can be graffitied. Cinder block, strong. You can easily heighten it by adding bricks, but again, it can be easily climbed, and it's a target for graffiti. Iron bars, the wrought iron fences, that's a more high dollar item, very beautiful, but the benefit of that, low maintenance, you can see through the bars, so you have your sight lines still, but it's very hard to get through, and it's graffiti proof. Pretty much. You could spray paint maybe the individual bars, but you couldn't tag it with your moniker. So that's something to think of if you're in an area with a lot of graffiti. And chain link fences. And chain link, graffiti proof, right? Who would graffiti a chain link fence? It's spray right through. But one thing to keep in mind, if you have a chain link fence, you're going to have the bottom going under the ground a couple of inches, probably 5 inches. Why? Because chain link can be pulled up, or it can be cut or folded up. So you want that bottom to go under the ground, and you want to have a bar at the ground length securing that bottom part. It can be climbed easily, that's another thing, and you need to get the proper thickness or gauge to prevent it from being cut. So those are just some types of fencing and things to keep in mind. We're going to move on to garage doors. Who reads the daily watch notes pretty regularly? Maureen, Susan. You guys know I talk about garage doors a lot, right? Yes. Well, I'm going to nag you a little bit more about garage doors. Here's the thing, and Maureen is, I have to tell your story. Is that okay?
That's fine, though.
Okay. Maureen lives in the Wantabo Hills neighborhood, and she is so supportive of APD and her community and her neighbors. She's out there always trying to talk about Neighborhood Watch and the benefits. And she'll actually go around and see which neighbors have the garage doors open a couple of feet. And then she actually told one of her neighbors, I've been in the military, and if I see your garage door open halfway like that again, I'm going to roll under it all military style, and I'm going to scare the heck out of you.
I ended up doing it.
Yeah, no.
I opened it.
She did it.
I did it. And
But it's serious. It's a serious matter because A lot of people want to leave those open for ventilation, to vent the garage, but what goes along with that? Anybody can get under. Offenders have been known to send a child under. If you think, oh, an adult can't get through that, they've been known to send children in, go in and open the garage, you know, hit the button so I can come in, and that happens.
I think last time I forgot to say this, but even if you crack it a half an inch, obviously you can't fit in a half an inch, a child can't either, no animals, but there's a tool that burglars have made, and it's a wire tool with 2 hinges on it. And a burglar created this, and you can even go on YouTube because burglars post these things on YouTube too. So they created a tool, they can fit in that little half-inch gap if you want to air your garage out. They'll raise it up, and they'll grab the hook on your garage door opener, and they'll release the lock, and they'll be able to just lift it up. So shut your garage doors all the way. Not even a half an inch. Shut it all the way.
They can also
Thank
use
you.
that same device, a long wire hook, through the rubber portion on the top of it and also capture that and pull it.
Just get a zip tie and lock that hook, and
Yeah.
it'll defeat that.
And YouTube has 2 companion videos on that. If you do a search, how to open a garage door in 6 seconds. I think it's 6 seconds or 10 seconds, but there's a companion piece on how to prevent that. And it really costs like $1 for these zip ties. That'll show you, I mean, we won't get into too much detail on that, but these things do occur, they happen, and what I want you, for your safety and for your family's safety, to remember about the garage door, that's the biggest door to your house. We don't think that way, we don't think in that manner. We leave it open, or we think, oh, I'm just doing yard work in the back, I'm right there. Well, the thing about that is, it only takes a second to get into the garage when it's wide open and unattended, nobody's in there. And the other thing I want you to think about, I'm not trying to scare the heck out of you, but most of us, our homes have a door from the garage into the house. How many have deadbolts on those? Do you actually lock the deadbolt? Good. Very good. Yeah, because if you think about it, you know, someone can waltz right in your garage. Now your vehicle's in there. A lot of people out there keep vehicle keys in the vehicle. I actually had a report from a lady that was victimized. She had the garage door open, her purse was on the front seat of the car, and the keys in the ignition. Well, bye-bye, there went everything. Now you're looking at identity theft. You're looking at fraud and forgery. You're looking at a stolen vehicle, a stolen plate, whatever else was in the vehicle. And, you know, the potential for somebody to just walk right in your home, too, is there. So I ask all of you, keep those garage doors closed and lock that door between the garage and the home. And you will be controlling your own environment. You will be doing what you can do that's within your power to harden your target. And that's what we need. Not only is it the property that gets stolen from the garages, sporting goods, things like that, but the vehicles we touched on, personal attacks. I think, do you remember, was it like a couple of years ago, I think we had females coming in from the grocery store, unloading the groceries. So your back is, you know, to the outside, taking the groceries out of the car to go into the house. And somebody was hanging around the garage, and the lady saw somebody smoking a cigarette by her garage but thought nothing of it. But to prevent those kind of things, awareness, scan the area. If you see anybody hanging around, drive on, go to a safe place, call a friend to go back with you. You can call the officer if you want to check the house. It happens, we forget, you know, we leave the garage door open by accident. Be a good neighbor, be those extra eyes on the block for each other, rely on each other, and go call or tell the neighbor, hey, did you realize your garage door's open?
Jill, okay, so like my house was built in 1958, so I still have the door that just goes up rather than, you know, comes
Oh,
down.
right.
Are those easier to gain access through?
It could be, but, you know, you could get a lock on that. You could upgrade, you know, if you want. I would see if I could get a lock, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds, and everyone's going to have a little bit of a different situation. But just try to remember, that's the biggest door to my house. And I wouldn't leave my front door hanging wide open for hours on end, so I'm not gonna do it with my garage.
Jill, the panel that you push the button to open up the garage on the outside.
Yeah,
panel,
yeah.
How is
keyless.
that? Is that pretty
I have
secure?
one, I love it.
But it's secure, right? Nobody's
Yeah,
tampered
I've never
it?
had any problem with it. I love it, but what I do as a companion piece, and Susan's talking about the little box that you'll see next to the garage with the keypad entry. One thing you can do is change your passwords often. Another thing, if you use it, cover your hand with the other hand when you're punching in your code. You never know. I just do that because this is my job and I see a lot of stuff on police reports. The other thing that I was going to touch on with that, the companion piece. On my smartphone, I've got, it's called MyQ, but there's an app, like there's an app for everything, right? But there's an app where I can remotely open or close my garage door through my smartphone. And not only that, but every time it's opened or closed, it sends like a push notification, and that's like a banner sort of on your smartphone. So you just know, oh, okay, the garage door opened at 4:35. Okay, that must be somebody coming home from their jog in the park. Or, for example, I tell this story a lot. I had ankle surgery at the end of the year, so couldn't walk, on painkillers. My mom would come over to check on me, and I could open the door, the garage door for her without getting up and close it from my smartphone by the bed. So just food for thought. It's interesting, you know, all the technology that's come out. There are new things coming out every day, and that one works for me.
What is the app?
It's called MyQ,
My QQE,
just the letter Q.
little Q.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Or if you ever drive off and you're halfway to work and you think, did the door actually close? It'll show you. And you can open, close, check on it throughout the day. It's got a password. I like having it. It works for us. I'm going to move on to landscaping. So when we were talking about sight lines, that was from your house to the street and the house across the street to your house. So you want good, clear, open sight lines for crime prevention. You don't want to have overgrown shrubs. Our rule of thumb for crime prevention, we like the shrubs to be about 3.5 feet high. We like the canopy on the trees to start at 6 feet or higher, because that opens up this big, nice sight line. So your neighbors can see your house if anybody's tampering there, looking in windows, trying to tamper with the door, kick in the door, get around to the back, and you can see your neighbor's house as well. So when you are out looking at your house from across the street, like Jill told you to do, just check and make sure that your bushes and shrubs are not blocking the views, that your porch, you can see to your porch pretty well. Landscaping rocks, that's one thing to consider, and again, crime prevention is a balance, and it's what works for your situation. I love to see landscaping rocks, but keep in mind, those can be used to break a window. Whether you park your car out in the driveway to break a window to the car, or break a window to the house. So if you have landscaping rocks, you may want to have really small ones that can't do that, or you may want to have strategic placement, or if they're really big and heavy, but I would watch the medium-sized rocks. Yes?
I had a couple of nice-sized landscaping rocks stolen from my front yard.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes, I mean, if it's
And I
not
mean-
nailed down,
They've been at my house ever since I've lived there for years.
oh, wow. I've heard of patio furniture and all that, but landscaping rocks. And sometimes too, you know, we had a couple summers ago, the big SUVs and trucks, the tires were being stolen off of them. A crew would come by in the middle of the night, and they would use the landscaping rocks, or they had their own cinder blocks that they brought with them, or jacks, and they would get the vehicle up, leave it on that, and the poor homeowner would wake up, go out to get the paper in the morning. It's like, oh my God, my truck is on my landscaping boulders with no tires. And they were quick. These guys were really good. They were quick and they knew what they were doing. So just keep in mind, and like I said, it's a balance. You don't want to feel like you're living in a prison. You don't want to feel uncomfortable in your home. But just remember, you know, some of the rocks could be used to break a window. Items on patios and in yards to be used to climb over fences. Just keep in mind, you know, keep it clear. And if you have maybe an area that's more private, you could have that type of patio furniture in the more private area rather than an area that faces the street. And if you do have that, I just did a home security assessment the other morning, and the lady told me my patio table and chairs were stolen right from my front patio open to the street. It does happen. Her neighbor has theirs chained down. Hey, good to see you. Come on in. You've got a seat right there.
Sorry,
No problem.
You know all this stuff already.
Yeah, so stay on top of your trimming. Remember the 3-foot, 6-foot guideline. We're going to move over to the front door now. We like to recommend solid core or metal front doors. We recommend eye viewers on the front door. If it's solid and you don't have the windows, eye viewers, and we recommend the 180-degree range of vision so you can see a little bit more through that eye viewer. Deadbolts, we want the throw, and that's the little piece that goes into the door frame. We want the throw to be minimum 1 inch into that door frame. Strike plates, we want the strike plates to have 4 3.5-inch long screws going into the door jamb. That's going to strengthen the weakest point of the door. If someone's going to try to break into your house through the front door, they're going to try to kick their way through, and that's the weak point. So you want to strengthen it with those long screws that go into the door jamb. You want to have a good throw that goes at least 1 inch in there. And use the deadbolts. When you have the deadbolt locks, use them. You can have the finest on the market, but if you don't use it, it's worthless. Glass panels, if you're like me and I've got a glass panel in my front door, get security film. I recommend that. And security film is a very tough film that's applied to the inside of the glass, on the inside of the house. It protects UV rays, so if you have furnishings near that area, and you can put this on your windows too, it'll protect from fading for the furniture, but it's very strong. So it's very difficult for somebody to break a window from the outside to get into your house if you have the security film on the glass. And then the other thing, what's nice,
Where do you find those?
you know, there are different private companies all over,
Okay.
so just check. It's nice, and it comes in different shades. You'll see them a lot at a lot of commercial buildings. So if you go by, look, kind of stand on the outside and see if you can see in. It's difficult to see inside, but if you're on the inside looking through the film, you can see outside pretty well. Also, it might help you with your heating and cooling as far as keeping the hot air in the winter and your AC or cooled air in during the summertime.
Do you know if that affects the plants?
Plants, I'm not sure. I don't know if it would. I haven't heard anything about that because it does let light in. Sunlight does come in, but it does have that protection for the UV and the fading. So I don't know if a plant would need that.
So if you put on your window, somebody tries to throw a big rock, it will stop.
It repels it. It's very
Really?
difficult to break through. Yeah, and if you have, normally like a good crime prevention rule of thumb is if you have a door lock, you don't want glass near it. You want at least 40 inches because that's our reach, most, you know, like the average reach. Because if someone breaks glass near your door, they can reach in and unlock the door and just get in that way. A lot of people don't want to do that though. I mean, they take a risk of hurting themselves, and they also take a risk of leaving DNA behind. If a detective comes, gets a swab, runs that, you could ID the perpetrator. Yes?
I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but we put a double cylinder deadbolt, so you actually need a key to get out of your front door. As long as you have the key in a convenient spot where you know it is in case of an emergency, you have to get out.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the thing, it's all a balance. And that's what works for you. It may not work for everybody. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that you could do, definitely. For the security doors, those are those heavy gauge doors that you see. I like seeing those around town because they're practically impenetrable for an offender. If you're on the inside and someone's on the outside of the door, you can see out, but they can't see you. It's heavy gauge steel. They're hinged to open outwards, so I mean, you'd have to be a fool to try to kick it in. I think you'd probably break your foot before you get through. They usually have deadbolts, and you get the ventilation, but you still get the privacy. So those, you know, it's a somewhat high dollar type of door, but I like to see those just because of all the benefits. The no solicitor sign, those are free. I mean, as you know, we don't really have many more here at the substation. I pocketed a group for the workshop. But if you go to other substations, they may still have some left.
We have a bunch. So
Oh.
if you come down to my substation, which is at Osuna in Wyoming, 8201, it's just west of Wyoming, we have a whole slew of them. So,
Is there a limit?
no.
I think you're gonna have a visitor tomorrow.
That's quite all right. Come on by.
And this is what they look like. Everybody got one tonight with your packet of handouts. And they really do work. They do. I mean, I've been home at lunchtime and finished lunch. I was rinsing a dish in the kitchen, and somebody came up and their hand was hovering over the doorbell, and they saw the sign, and the body language was hilarious. It was like, oh, forget it. And they go walking off. They never knew I was watching from the kitchen window, but I thought, oh, great. You know, now I've got a story to tell when I meet with my community members that the signs really do work. And for you guys, you're in a homeowner association controlled area. You've got the signs as you enter your neighborhood, but I really recommend every home have one. And it doesn't have to be this sign. You can go buy one at a hardware store or a big box retail store. You can make one on a computer. You could even have a grandkid color one and make one for you. One of our block captains in Sharon's area came up with a great idea. When they ran out, she had this photocopied on cardstock at Kinko's or FedEx, whatever they are now, and she just passed them out to her neighborhood. So, you know, she just reproduced it. But those signs are effective to post by your door. Key custody, if you read my blog, you know how I am about key custody. Your house keys and your vehicle keys. Make sure that you're up to speed on who has copies of the keys to your vehicle and your home, and are they still trustworthy? Relationships sour, maybe some people's behavior goes south and they're no longer trustworthy to have your keys. So just keep that in mind, you know. We do have break-ins where keys were used, both in vehicles and in homes. So just something to keep in mind. If you have an alarm as well, who has custody or who knows your code, and should they still continue to have that? Just food for thought. Children, I want you to teach your children how to respond to the door when there's somebody at the door. The eye viewers, teach them to use eye viewers. And if it's too high for them to look through, get a little stool and show them how to use it. But as a family, this is going to be your responsibility to teach them how you want them to respond. The porch, keep that free of hoses, other things that people could trip and fall, just for safety reasons. So we'll move on to windows. If you have screens that are torn or hanging, get those replaced, fix them up. We're having residential burglaries. I've noticed a pattern over the last couple of months where the screens are being removed from windows at the back of the home. So the offender is going to the trouble to remove the screen. Why? Because they can see the window is open. So we've got to be really careful about locking up, keeping things closed. If you want to have that window open for ventilation, get an anti-lift or anti-slide mechanism to put in there. It could be as simple as a broomstick or a dowel, or fancy as you want.
Can I use an example of what happened with our home invasion?
Sure.
Yeah, so we had a home invasion at Wansboro Hills, like, how long ago was it, about a month? About a month ago. The residents are an elderly couple. They had the same routine every single day. They've lived in our neighborhood for 8 years, basically as long as our neighborhood has existed. They know they're the greatest neighbors you will ever imagine. They know everybody, they know movements, they're pretty fantastic. The only thing that they did wrong was have the same routine every day where they opened their windows and they left their screen door. They went upstairs for about 20 minutes. 3 guys came in armed. 2 at the back, 1 at the front. They pried open the screen. They just went in. They zip-tied them.
Everything was locked, they were.
It was not, they went through. They basically let them in. And they said that themselves. These guys came in, they knew everything. They
That's on
had
the
zip.
news, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I did review that. They had zip ties. They zip-tied them, they beat them. And people think these things can't happen, and people, residents in our neighborhood, thought it couldn't happen to them. The thing that failed them was the fact that sightlines, as Jill has said, front to back, you could not see all the way through. There was a rental next door as well, and the fact of the matter is that it was very easy to watch them because there was open space across from that house. So you could be sitting there behind a bush, watching them in the day or at night. There were no lights visible in the open space area. So they just made their way in, and they were comfortable in and out in 20 minutes, took everything.
They didn't even know these people at all.
It's still an open investigation, so we don't have
Yeah.
any details.
But from that case, you hear about lighting,
Yes,
you hear about locking up,
yeah.
even when you're inside the house. You hear about landscaping and keeping those sight lines open, and neighbors, relying on neighbors. If someone had seen something out of the ordinary, call 242 cops or 911, we can have an officer dispatched there. And I don't want you to think, oh, it takes forever, or the police are too busy, I don't want to bother them. We could have somebody clearing a call that's a minute away from you. We could have somebody around the block.
Sorry.
It's worth it to call, and the data helps me too on my end. When I do those daily posts about the property crime that happened the day before, all of that data helps me, and it helps Lieutenant Middleton, our other lieutenants, the commander, the sergeants, the impact team of detectives that we have here, on how to better focus our resources. So if you need an officer, please call and get that call, because it does get into our system as far as day of the week, time, the address, the area. If you have subject descriptions, you may think it's not important, but it could be helping somebody else's case across town with that description. So thank you for sharing that. Another thing I wanted to talk about, again, we talked about the blinds, testing the blinds, lifting them, doing the different openings, just so you can see what somebody else would see if they're outside the house. Just so you know. I think it's a good thing to know. Don't advertise your TVs and computers right next to a window, having that glow. If you can, I would move them a little further back. Why advertise, you know? And it happens at Christmas time a lot. People have these like showplace kind of windows, and they put the tree in front of the window, light it up, all the gifts are underneath, and then they throw open the draperies at night, and boy, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can drive by and go, oh, okay, that's what they've got. Remove items nearby windows that could be used to smash them, to break in. Strategic planting. You can plant holly, cactus, roses near your windows to prevent somebody from climbing in that way. Security film, we talked about that, for privacy and for breakage. And doggy doors. If you read my blogs, you know I'm kind of a stickler about doggy doors too. If you moved into a house with an existing doggy door and you don't have a dog, seal that off. If you have a dog and you use the doggy door, keep in mind, You need to secure that at times because people can get through and they have gotten through doggy doors to commit residential burglaries. There is something one of our police officers told me about. He was at a house on a call and the dog had a chip-embedded collar. So it's a collar with a chip that activates the doggy door to go up and down. Other than that, when that dog is out of range, that door is closed and secured. So like I said, all the technology for crime prevention uses, it's amazing. There's new stuff coming out all the time. I get asked a lot of questions about cameras and alarms. So cameras, what I can tell you, placement is key. Quite often, people put them high up, and you're just getting a shot at the top of somebody's cap, like yours back there, or you're getting a hoodie pulled over at the top of a head. So if you can get it placed, like a door jamb cam, where you're going to have a facial shot, if you have an offender and something has happened, you're able to download that. Downloading is important so you can hand it off to a detective. They can probably recognize who it is. We have a lot of repeat offenders in this city, and that facial recognition or the facial shot is important for a detective to help solve your case. If you're more concerned about cars going by, try to get it at an angle where you can get the license plate. You want to have historical data going back at least 2 weeks if you have a camera system. Why? Because most of us go on vacation. If we get burglarized, you're going to want to go back in time. And also, if you get burglarized, you want to be able to go back in time on that data to see if you were being cased. Because quite often, you'll be cased before you're burglarized. Also, download quickly. Don't do dummy cameras. I really don't recommend those.
They know.
Offenders know, they can spot them, and it doesn't do you one bit of good if you are victimized because you can't hand anything over to the detective to help solve your case. So, I mean, I think dummy cameras are something probably to help the purchaser feel good and that they didn't have to go all the way with the camera system, but it's really not going to help you out. And it sends a false impression that you have something on film and that if anything happens to somebody, that was a safe place for them to be when it really wasn't. As far as cameras, there's so many types and price points out there. There are even smart doorbells that have cameras that activate when someone rings your bell. There's all kinds of things out there. So if that's what you're into, do your homework, do your research. Alarms, we have to register alarms to the APD false alarms unit.
Why?
That's a city ordinance. I remember when that was enacted.
We moved here 13 years ago.
Mhm.
I thought it was a joke when they said you had to pay for the
No.
right to protect your own property.
No joke. I mean, it's a city ordinance. A lot of people, install the alarms and do what you want to do, but it's a city ordinance on the books. Code custody, remember, just make sure that whoever has your code, that it's still appropriate for them to have it. Arm it when you're home. I recommend that. You may have a false alarm here and there by accident, but I would arm it when you're home. I think that's safer. It only takes a few seconds to break into a home. And if you have a solicitor at the door and you don't acknowledge that anybody's home when you are there, they're going to assume, great, the house is empty, I can break in. So again, with the solicitors or strangers at your door who you didn't invite, you don't expect, keep the door locked, but acknowledge your presence.
What does
You're
that
inside.
fee go for when you have that permit? What does it go towards?
I'm not sure where the funds go. I don't know if it goes to the general fund or,
To the CPC meeting. They're talking about.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't that go, because sometimes people have a lot of false alarms?
Yes, some
and they
people have
haven't
false
registered
alarms
them
and
and all kinds of stuff.
it's a drain on resources. And this happens all the time when it's very, very windy in Albuquerque, and if you happen to live where you get the canyon winds, a lot of alarms get activated and the officers are running call to call to call to call for these alarms, and it's just the wind blew it. So and it got activated.
The cost is $9.
Yeah. I would say, again, that's a personal decision for your property, whether you want to go that route with cameras and alarms. But at least, a few tips there can help you out making a decision. I want to talk about property inventory really quickly. If you don't have one, do one. You need to have a property inventory and you need to keep it updated. A lot of us have good intentions and we start and we don't keep it updated. But if you get burglarized or property from your vehicle or something gets stolen, you should at least have the make, the model, the serial number, or if it's a special item engraved, maybe jewelry, keep that in a safe place, because quite often if an officer recovers stolen property, we want to do our best to match you up with your property, get you reunited. But quite often people are vague or they don't have property inventory. So say, Sony TV stolen 20-inch or whatever, we can't prove that that's yours. So the more detailed, the better. We have one that we recommend, Report It Leaves Online. And that one is a free account for the user. It's stored digitally. You can upload photos or videos. If you take pictures of jewelry, please lay your jewelry next to a ruler so that we can see the scale, the size. Quite often you might have maybe jewelry stolen in a residential burglary, and you can have, for example, yellow gold diamond band. Well, that could be like 20 different kinds of yellow gold diamond bands. So be specific on your property inventory. And your homeowner's insurance may even have something for you, some kind of format that you can use. I'm going to move into a few questions that I always get asked by the community at these types of things. Should I get a dog? Sure. If you have a big dog, that could delay or deter somebody from breaking in. If you have a small dog, they're very alert and they bark at anything, so it attracts attention. If you post beware of dog signage on your house, by all means do it. That's another deterrent. The same if you have alarms or cameras. Go ahead and put those stickers up, and put the signs out. You want to show that your place is going to be very difficult to break in and a bad choice to try to break in and to move on to the weaker target. And if you have a dog, that's just another deterrent. Wrought iron bars, a lot of people ask me about those. That's a personal decision for you at your home. Some people feel that it's like living in a jail. Other people love them and they make them feel secure. I did a residential security assessment over by Academy, and the lady even wanted wrought iron bars over her skylines. I mean, she was into it. She wanted them. Other people don't want anything to do with wrought iron bars. So again, personal decision, but if you get them, you better make sure those release latches work and you know how to use them and you practice. If you have a fire and you need to get out, you just want to get right into that mode of you know how to operate those so that you can get out safely. Broken glass, barbed wire on the top of my fence, is that okay? No, it's not. It is not okay. I was at a security assessment at somebody's house and they wanted to put carpet tacks along the top of the fence. I mean, the thing is, you can check with the code enforcement team and they'll clear up any kind of questions and answer them specifically for you. And you can get a hold of them if you call the Citizens Contact Center, and that's dialing 311. Remove ladders and trash bins, put them away. Those are used to break into homes, and it may not even be your home. I had a case recently where the neighbor left their ladder out, and there were 3 kids in the neighborhood, came and stole the ladder from this neighbor's house, trotted it over to this neighbor's house, and broke into the house through the 2nd-story window. Go figure. They stole a cell phone and a tablet or an iPad. So, clean your stuff up, control your environment, put your things away. Don't leave trash bins out where they could be used as a stepping stool over your fence, that kind of thing. One thing that one of my block captains has for Neighborhood Watch is a driveway sensor, and it's so cool. So that may be something you'd be interested in. If you have to park your car outside overnight in the driveway, you set it up, and it's got a beam, and if anybody crosses that beam, it sets off an alert inside. Sheds, if you have a shed in the backyard, keep it locked. I'm not worried so much about your lawnmower or your rake being stolen. I'm worried about your safety. And quite often, if officers are in a foot pursuit and a criminal is running down the block, looks over at your place and says, ah, shed, unlocked. I'll hang out there until the officers are gone. Now you've got this person in your backyard. So padlock it, keep it locked. I'm going to go over a few ways to partner with APD as community members. We have neighborhood associations that you can join in your neighborhoods. I encourage you to join them, get active. Homeowner associations as well. The City Council Coalition of Neighborhoods. There's one in District 8, Trudy Jones's district, Thursday night. And Councilor Harris, who's District 9, it's mostly this area. His coalition, or the neighborhood, it's not his, but the East Gateway Coalition meets quarterly. If you go to the Foothills website, I post those on the events calendar. Monthly, we have the Foothills Community Policing Council meetings. Maureen was mentioning that. We want you guys there. This is your meeting. And I'm hearing that 10 citizens showed up every month, month after month. We need you. We need your input. This is your forum to talk to our APD Foothills leadership. The commander has gone to meet people, but it's really Lieutenant Middleton and Lieutenant Jordan go. And this is your forum to ask how things are done, why are they done this way, etc. Those are the first Monday of every month, 6 o'clock at the Holiday Park Community Center over on Comanche.
Jill, real quick. If you live in my command, in the Northeast Area Command, we also have them. Every single command has a community policing council. Ours is every second Tuesday of the month at 6:30 at North Domingo Baca. My commander, lieutenants, sergeants, everybody shows up to those. So you guys are also welcome at those. We do border against the foothills, so if you're curious, because criminals don't know borders for our commands, that's why we encourage you guys to come and see what's going on both sides. So they're great, they're informative. Sometimes we're there, sometimes we have different folks that come in and talk, like heading home for the homeless, and maybe some of the city councilors and different things like that, as well as the council meetings for them.
What time are they?
Ours are at 6:30. And I also post those out on nextdoor.com, out on email, and on the website as well.
Do you post it in your daily emails to us too?
I post it in the events section on the Foothills website, so if you look at the events calendar, that's where it'll be. But we need your participation. We really want to see more citizens showing up at these. Also forming neighborhood watches. Again, this is in your packet. These are easy to do. We just need minimum 50% of the homes on the block represented at the meeting, and someone to step up as a block captain. Yes.
What days was the meetings at the Comanche?
Oh, the Holiday Park Community Center. It's the first Monday of every month for the Foothills.
What time again?
6 o'clock. And they have to lock up the center by 8 o'clock, so you guys are out of there at 10 till 8, right? Yeah, at the latest. And then yours is at the same location.
Ours is at North Domingo Baca,
Oh,
which is at 7521 Carmel, which is Wyoming and Carmel, just past Paseo to the north. Ours are at 6:30, and those run at every second Tuesday of the month. They are on my website also as under the events calendar, just like Jill's. So where hers is Foothills Area Command, mine is Northeast Area Command. So you just put those into the website addresses and you can capture both of ours.
Yeah, and we both have, subscription services, so if you sign on as a subscriber, you'll automatically get those emails. And the good thing about that, you don't need to remember to check the website. It comes to